Hello, and thank you for joining us. It has been a legal whirlwind surrounding President Trump's efforts to reorient global trade. After two separate rulings halted President Trump's global tariffs, a federal appeals court blocked that decision, allowing his plan to go forward as the legal challenges unfold. Elon Musk, who spent more than $250 million helping elect President Trump and other Republicans last year, announced he's stepping away from his role as a special government employee with the Trump administration. The Tesla CEO helped advise the administration on its efforts to cut federal spending with the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. And as Harvard University held its commencement address Thursday, a federal judge extended an order blocking the Trump administration from barring the Ivy League school from enrolling international students. CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi joins me now to cover this flurry of events. Olivia, I want to begin with the news surrounding President Trump's trade policy and the ruling allowing his tariffs to remain in place for now. What is the White House saying?
Well, Lindsay, the White House is certainly championing this decision by that appellate court to put a stay on that lower court ruling that essentially wiped out President Trump's tariffs. We actually just heard from the White House on this specifically from Kush Desai, White House spokesperson. He said that the administrative stay on the Court of International Trade's ruling is a positive development for America's industries and workers. He went on to paint this decision as, a national emergency. And that's exactly why Trump says that he put these tariffs in place to fix these trade imbalances. We also heard from Kevin Hassett. He's the director of Trump's National Economic Council. He said they're very pleased with the ruling. They expected it, called it a very big victory for the president. But Lindsay, as you and I spoke about, this is not over. This still is just a stay, temporary stay, and this will be a legal negotiation and conversation that will happen into June, perhaps well beyond that, about the legality of Trump's tariff plan.
Many wondering now if it goes to the Supreme Court. So, Olivia, the president hosted Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell at the White House. What do we know about that meeting?
Well, we know that it came at the request of the president, and we know that the president had let Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, know he was not happy with where the monetary policy of the country is right now. As we know, Trump has been pushing for that rate cut, but the economy is kind of wonky right now. We've been covering it not only with the tariff conversation, but also jobs being steady, consumer confidence being high. Jerome Powell really seeing no reason to cut those rates. And he was asked previously last month why he hadn't met with the president yet, given that he had met with him during the first administration. He had met with several other presidents as well. Take a listen to what Jerome Powell had to say about that last month during his FOMC meeting.
I've never asked for a meeting with any president, and I never will. It's not, I wouldn't do that. There's never a reason for me to ask for a meeting. It's always been the other way.
Not quite defiant there from the chairman of the Federal Reserve, but he maintained in a statement today that he did not talk to the president about cutting those rates, even if the president talked to him about it.
Let's talk about Elon Musk stepping away from his role in the administration. He spoke with CBS Sunday Morning about his departure. Here's part of that interview.
And, it's not like I agree with everything the administration does. So it's like I agree with much of what the administration does, but we have differences of opinion. There's things that I don't entirely agree with. But it's difficult for me to bring that up in an interview because then it creates a bone of contention. So then I'm a little stuck in a bind where I'm like, well, I don't want to, speak out against the administration, but I don't want to. I also don't want to take responsibility for everything the administration is doing.
How will first of all, what do you make of that comment? And what will his legacy at DOGE be, and how will the department continue its work?
Well, first on that comment, he went on to say that he's kind of disappointed by the big, beautiful bill, that big spending bill, because it really undermines the work that his efforts at DOGE were doing, which was to cut government spending. And Lindsay, he had high hopes when he came to Washington with that chainsaw and the cheese hat. He wanted to cut $2 trillion, then revise that to about $1 trillion. And essentially, they landed on about $160 billion. And still that figure needs to be vetted. But that's what they say they were able to cut. Meanwhile, this spending bill is in the trillions and certainly is more than that $160 billion that they were able to cut. So he leaves this legacy in Washington really falling short of what he came here to try to accomplish. And he had 130 days as this special government employee that is set to expire tomorrow. He still maintains a cozy relationship with the president and will serve as this advisor to him, unofficial advisor to him. The White House says the work of DOGE will continue. Of course, we know that was created by executive order, and it's set to expire in July of 2026. So we have quite a way to go. But there were other people working with DOGE that left as well today or in the next coming days. So quite notable. And we'll have to see what exactly DOGE is able to cut and what Congress will codify as a result of those cuts as well.
Olivia, Rinaldi, thank you. For more on the tariffs, let's bring in Paul LaMonica. Paul is a senior markets analysis writer at Barron. So, Paul, I was following your X account today and everything that was happening with the markets and your reporting. Why did investors react the way they did?
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind, Lindsay. I think investors were excited and hopeful that maybe some of the Trump tariffs would be delayed in implementing them or pulled back. We also had some very strong earnings from NVIDIA, the AI chip giant that is a leader in the market and a bellwether for the tech sector and kind of the AI economy that we live in right now. So that's why the market was up, but there's going to be a lot of volatility because the president clearly still wants to implement a lot of these tariffs, and we're in the negotiation phase. How high will some of the tariffs ultimately be on China and on friendlier trading partners, if you will, like the EU, Canada, and Mexico? It's all still a game of brinksmanship right now.
So in the meantime, is it business as usual for big corporations and small businesses and consumers when it comes to tariffs, as if nothing happened last night?
Yeah, I'm not so sure I'd go that far. You've already seen that there are some companies, particularly in retail like Walmart, talking about how prices are going to likely need to go up because of tariffs. I think you're going to see consumer goods companies that do a lot of their production overseas may have to raise prices as well. There have been a lot of people I've spoken to who say that the damage may already have been done to a certain extent because of these threats. The hope, obviously, though, is that, again, that this might be a negotiating tactic by the quote unquote art of the deal president. And if we get some favorable trade deals, yes, tariffs are going to be higher than they were, but maybe not so prohibitively high that it's going to be a big problem for countries around the world and the multinational corporations that do business in the U.S. and all those other countries.
But how do you expect businesses will make decisions in the coming days and weeks with so much up in the air?
It's going to be very difficult. I think that major corporations are going to need to be flexible and make changes on the fly based on what the administration continues to do, whether or not there are more legal setbacks. And I know that the president has been putting pressure on some companies, suggesting that they eat the higher costs of these tariffs. I don't really think that most companies are willing to do that, even if they are some of the larger firms out there that are flush with cash and arguably could absorb some of these price increases. And that's where we're going to see, will there be the possibility of companies having to cut back on expenses to absorb these higher tariffs? When they do that, that's often code for layoffs, job cuts, and that's obviously not something that the president would want to see because the job market is still healthy. That's clearly something that's good news for the president. It's also one of the reasons why, as your last correspondent said, Jerome Powell's not in any hurry to be cutting interest rates again just yet until the labor numbers get worse.
All right, Paul LaMonica, thank you. And you can catch more of David Pogue's conversation with Elon Musk this weekend on CBS Sunday Morning. It also streams at 11 a.m. Eastern here on CBS News 24/7.